Well, today we're going to talk to a gentleman who is actually a bona fide serial entrepreneur. He's got a couple of things going on. He's going to share with us those things and give you some tips and ideas from his own personal experience. So hang on.
You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Well, welcome everyone. This is Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm your host, Doug Thorpe, and today we've got a new episode. My guest is Ryan Cote, or is it Cody or Cote?
Cote, actually.
Cote. 2 out of 3, and I got them wrong, but Cote. He's calling us from the great state of New Jersey. And Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Doug. Happy to be here. Excited.
Yeah. So give us the quick nutshell rundown of all the plates you got spinning right now.
Yeah, I'll go back to when I was 3 years old. We'll start there. No, I'm just joking. Married for 15 years, or close to 16. I have 3 daughters. So that's one big plate spinning, 3 girls keep me and my wife busy, between all their kabillion activities, softball, dance, soccer, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the business front, like you mentioned, I'm from New Jersey. On the business front, my family, we have a couple of businesses. One's a marketing agency I wasn't around then, but 1966 is when my great uncle started the company. And now it's me, my 2 brothers, my uncle, my cousin, and other non-Cote family members. But and recently, interestingly enough, completely separate from the marketing, we started a roofing company. It's sort of like an entrepreneurial experiment. We think we could do it better. We have some ideas. We have projects going on now, and we could talk about that if you want. How we kind of transitioned into that, though we still have the marketing. And then for me, kind of like a passion project. Started Morning Upgrade 2 years ago. It's a business. It's a blog. It's a podcast. I have a book. I have a morning routine product. I think eventually, I'm like 95% certain I'm going to create a mastermind as part of it, because I love masterminds. We could talk about that if you want. But those are all the plates I have spinning. On personal, I like to do Krav Maga. I just started doing that a couple months ago as a way to push myself, because I just felt like I needed something to spice it up and push myself out of my comfort zone. So I started doing Krav Maga, and that's definitely pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I'm very sore as we speak right now.
Well, anything like that can really get the thing going. Well, as we kind of arrange this show, the thing that did catch my attention, and I will start with it, and then we can get into all the other things. The notion of your morning routine and having some kind of routine. Every backstory that I've ever studied about highly successful business leaders and entrepreneurs, there's inevitably some kind of discipline in their story, whether it's the morning routine, the admiral that talked about make your bed, and just some regimen of being intentional about what you're going to do. And it's good for, certainly physical health, mental health, emotional health. And it really does set the tone for how you might go about solving your business problems. So let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about that morning routine. What are some of the ideas and principles you've found?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely my pillar habit. I might have other habits too, like exercise and other things, but the morning routine is definitely my pillar habit, and it has been for 5 years now. It's changed over the years. I've crafted my own routine that's like my sweet spot, like less than 30 minutes, that checks off all the boxes. And I can go over that. I can go through my morning routine if that's helpful.
Yeah, please just give us an example of what that looks like.
Okay, I'll keep it real quick. I ask myself a series of questions to start. Well, first of all, I grab water. This is water, not coffee, but I grab a cup of water, and I start asking myself questions, pen to paper, writing down the answers. What's my number 1 priority for today, or 2 or 3 priorities? What am I grateful for? What's my biggest win from yesterday? Who am I going to reach out to today? Friend, family, team member, whatever. And then I journal for a few minutes. Right now, I'm big on journaling out my intentions for the day, like how I want to show up for the day. but sometimes it'll be my affirmations. Sometimes it's just like a brain dump of thoughts, changes. Then I exercise for about 5 or 6 minutes. Usually it's like burpees with pull-ups, just continuous movement, get my blood flowing. It's not the only exercise I do. Of course, I mentioned the Krav Maga, but I also like to walk. I think walking is amazing. And then I meditate for 5 or 6 minutes using Insight Timer. There's some great free guided meditations on that app. And then lastly, Doug, I read for a few minutes. And the book I'm reading right now is called Everyday Hero Manifesto by Sharma. It's really good. It's definitely worth the read. It's probably one of my favorite books right now. And that's what I do. And while I'm doing that, I'm usually at my desk at my home. And I have this UV, I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but just bear with me. I have like this UV light therapy thing called Happy Light shining on my face. Especially in the wintertime when there's not a lot of sun, it's really good for like energy, your mood. And so while I'm writing that stuff out, I have the Happy Light shining on me. So it's about a 25-minute routine. That's how I start my mornings.
Nice. Yeah, several times in that you use the word intentional or intentionality, because I love that word. I was reminded of it a number of years ago, and I've kind of hung on to it ever since. The way I usually share it with my coaching clients is every breathing human being on the earth has one thing in common, and that is the number of seconds in the day that we're given.
Yeah.
And you look around at anybody you point to, and if you want to say, well, why are they more successful, or why are they more productive, or why do they seem happier and more together? It ultimately boils down to how they use those seconds.
Right.
And you can't just randomly burn that daylight. You have to have a plan. You have to have some intentionality about what you're going to do. So I love your list there that you read off, the notion of who you're going to reach out to, what are you thankful for, what's your big goal for the day, or big, some people call it the big rock they want to move today. Just what is that one big idea that you want to work on? And chipping away at it day by day, moment by moment, is how we accomplish all those great things. So that's good stuff. How did you get into that?
Into morning routines, or my specific routine?
The routines.
Honestly, it came through, the reason I said 5 years, because I remember the date when I started doing it, not the specific day, but the year. It was 2017, and just going through some challenges at our marketing agency, and felt like the sky was falling on top of me. I felt very mediocre, very flustered, and I had the self-awareness, I guess, at that point from just all the content. I was into personal development, but it was more just like the books I read. That was really it, and I had enough self-awareness from that to know that, like, obviously we need to fix things in the business, but there's things here that I need to fix as well. And this personal development, I'm not saying I'm fixed. It's an ongoing journey, but I had the awareness I need to do something to mix things up and make myself stronger. And I just happened to come across a podcast with Hal Elrod at that time. It's funny how things will show up when you need them. And I was like, man, that sounds really interesting. I hadn't really thought of waking up early to do a specific series of things, to start my morning, but it sounds like exactly what I need right now. And then I did other things too. Like I joined the boxing club just because it made me uncomfortable. I made changes to my diet. Like I stopped eating red meat. I haven't eaten red meat in 5 years. And I'm not saying there's anything bad with it. I just felt like I didn't need it. And it just seemed like the right move for me just to mix things up. And that's when it started. So I started doing the morning routine. I followed the Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod's program to the T for a while. And then as I did it more and more, like anything, you just start to develop your own opinions and your own, well, this would be cool if I did it this way, or what if I, it's like cooking, And so I've just made many changes over the years to my morning routine, but the one I have now is the one I've had for the longest.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that. And one other angle that I've heard, and now I'm drawing a blank on who I heard this from. But there was somebody that suggested you brush your teeth with your alternate hand, because your muscle memory, you're used to however you grew up brushing your teeth. If you force yourself to, and I'm doing right hand, left hand, because I'm predominantly right-handed for stuff like that. if you force yourself to use the other hand, there's a whole different brain pattern that kicks in, and it kind of wakes your brain up to the idea that, I need to do some work here. I need to engage. And I bring that up because I think we're all subject to getting on autopilot if we're not careful.
I 100% agree. Honestly, it's the reason why I joined the Krav Maga place, because I was starting to feel not, I guess, unmotivated or very, not soft, but I was just starting to feel uninspired, maybe is the better word. And I was like, I need to mix things up, and I need to push myself out of my comfort zone and just like, it's exciting sometimes, and so, yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes you need to mix things up. I think it's also why I change my morning routine so often, because I just like variety, like the reading that I mentioned, a few pages of the book, that wasn't part of my routine a few months ago. I added that in because I felt like I wanted to mix it up a little bit. It made sense. The Happy Light, one of my podcast guests mentioned it, because I interview people on their morning routines, and he mentioned it, never heard of it. I was like, oh, that sounds like a great addition. So I'm always looking for tweaks and dials to turn a little bit, not major, not like turning the dial all the way, but just like little turns.
Right. Just that little edge to kind of put that spark back in it. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift over. So let's talk first about the marketing business that you've got going on for entrepreneurs and other small business. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, so that's let me try to keep this answer condense this answer. So, I went to school for marketing. Okay, so that's the first thing. But I had no intentions of going into the family business. I really, honestly, was not thinking about it. I had 2 other jobs outside of college. I think when my middle brother Matt joined the business in 2003, that's when I was like, it kind of planted the seed. And then I went to my uncle and my dad. And I said, and they, at that point, they had no marketing person. And so there was technically a role I could fill, and so I joined in 2003 as director of marketing, though I was only one person. So just directing myself, but that was still my job title. And I did that for 10 plus years. And then we decided to open up the digital marketing division. So this was just printing, direct mail, like the stuff you get in your mailbox, postcards, whatnot. And so we had the idea of opening up the digital division, and that's what I spearheaded with my youngest brother, Scott. And so that fast forward to now, we have a team of 8, just all things digital. That was the evolution over the last 56 years. It was just, starting off with direct mail, and then adding creative, and then adding the mailing side of the printing, then adding the digital, just kind of slow, just building up of the different services as the needs revealed themselves.
But kudos to you guys as a family business for doing that and having the willingness to make those changes and pivots. A lot of times companies get ingrained in their one way is the only way kind of thinking, and pretty soon, as the market shifts and the evolution of business happens, you find yourself without a market one day.
It was tough for me because, for so long I was just I was department of one. So I didn't have, I had a boss, I was my dad and my uncle, but I had no team. And so I got used to that, working solo, like, because there was other people at the company, but my stuff was completely different than their stuff. And so then once we built out the digital division and I had like actual people reporting to me, man, I'm telling you, it was like such a learning curve for me. And it still is. Like, people asking me questions all the time, looking to me for the answers. Learning how to manage people. I've had some doozies, of just experiences to work through, hiring, firing, and so it's been many years of just learning along the way.
That's actually a sweet spot that I work with a lot of companies on, is that notion of to grow the idea into a bona fide, repeatable, scalable business. You have to introduce more people to the equation. And that's inevitably where a majority of entrepreneurs start to sort of get in the ditch or come unhinged, because managing people and dealing with all those emotional and psychological issues that show up at work is not what you signed on for. You want to do your thing, you want to whatever the widget is or the service that you're putting out there, that's where you want your focus to be. And what you just described, Brian, is 100% what I hear from all of my business clients that I engage with, is that it's unless they perhaps came out of a larger corporate setting where they had some management opportunity, most entrepreneurs who really start out young as an entrepreneur and keep it going don't understand that people management side of things. And it's a huge chasm that can really be a challenge.
Yeah, in hindsight, I wish when we first started, we hired our first employee to work on the digital side. In hindsight, I wish I had, because I didn't know what was coming, I wish I had delved into more training, use someone like you, or, just to coach me on what was coming, masterminds. Being part of the one that I'm part of now would have been nice to have that back then, but, sometimes you learn through experiences too.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we're coming up on a time that we need to take a break, but we're going to pick up on this idea of the continued growth of entrepreneurial ideas. You got one more story to tell, as I recall, and we'll pick that up on the next half. We'll be right back.
Business is all about solving complex problems as fast as you can create them. Become the best problem solver by leading others to greatness too. And the first step is going to DougThorpe.com. Doug Thorpe is known globally for coaching entrepreneurs and business leaders, improving their performance and the work output of everyone surrounding them. You can find health, wealth, and happiness by learning to lead others to health, wealth, and happiness. Go to DougThorpe.com now and order Doug's books or hire him to coach your managers. That's DougThorpe.com.
Well, hello, everyone. We're back, and this is Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm talking to Ryan Cote from New Jersey, and Ryan is a serial entrepreneur. We talked about his business that is helping people understand and build morning routines. That's one. We talked about a family marketing business he's got and the evolution of it into what is now digital marketing. He's got a third story to tell about his entrepreneurial endeavors. And Ryan, why don't you pick that up and tell us about it?
Yeah, this is an interesting, it was an interesting transition into, we still have the direct mail and the digital marketing company, Bal-en-tine. Yeah, but with all the family members in the business, we all have different roles. Like my uncle John and my brother Matt, they're all direct mail. My brother Scott was in digital, but also operations, and he was getting the itch to try something different, getting a little burnt out in the marketing, want to try something different. Like we talked about variety. We have some contractor clients on the digital side. So he kind of understood the business model, and we were kind of throwing out ideas in like 2020. Just like it'd be great if we had our own contracting business where we were generating the leads for ourselves and really could apply our business experience and the operational side of things and the marketing side to our own business. And so we were researching different things like tree removal, roofing, electrical work, and we decided on roofing. And I can tell you, I could go over why, but so we said, okay, it's definitely a good idea, and let's do it. And we kind of backburned the idea for a little bit, and then last year in 2021, my brother Scott's like, I really want to do this. This is how we're going to do it. And we said, oh, let's do it. And so the reason we chose roofing is because it's typically 1 day job, 1 or 2 days max. Just very in and out, transactional, in and out, and bills out fairly well because you're putting on a whole new roof, and it's, just from our experience, at least in our area, we saw ways that we could do things better, like professional attire at all times, giving quotes during the day, same day quotes, like literally coming to the appointment with the quote, and just different, like the turnaround time, the materials that we're going to use. Like we're starting from scratch here, so we were going to really just try to check off every box and do everything right. And so the process for getting this set up, just for your audience, we built the website, we obviously registered the name, the LLC, got insurance, got the license, of course. And that was a pretty long process. And for full disclosure, this was not me doing it. My brother Scott was handling this part. I'll tell you my role in a second. But so we had the website up, and then we just started advertising. And my cousin Josh and Scott were going on quotes, getting the feedback and fine tuning. Okay, this went well, this didn't. Here's how we're going to give the quote. And we started getting projects. And now we have ongoing projects for roofing and for gutters. And for my part of the business, because I want to contribute, I just do a weekly networking group. So it's called Lit Tip. If anyone has not heard of it, it can be very effective depending on your business. Basically, you have breakfast every week, and everyone just shares referrals. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but it's been very effective. And so every week I go as the roofer of the group. It's funny because I have to remember like what hat I'm wearing that day. So I go from roofing in the morning to then back to digital marketing. And so it's weird to stand up and say, I'm the roofer of the group. I've gotten used to it now. But that's been the trend. That's been the process, like really starting lean, building the website, figuring out what our differentiators were going to be, figuring out what each person's role is going to be. I'm going to be the networker. Scott's going to be operations. Josh is going to do the quotes. And then just going on quotes and then learning from the ones that we didn't get the business. Why didn't we get it? Why didn't we get it? What could we do better? And now we're in the process of just fine tuning. One more thing I want to mention, we're using subs. And so we're not actually doing the work. You might say, how would you know how to roof? We went to the supplier and we said, who would you recommend to be their subcontractor? And they gave us some names and then we interviewed them. And now we have some subs that we're going to use that we're using. And so hopefully that was helpful, but that was, a very quick overview of how the business was built and how we're growing it right now.
I think it's a great example because what I'm thinking of is the angle that there are people out there right now that have had a day job in some kind of corporate America for a long time. They're feeling a little burned out. They want to do something different, but they look at a business like roofing and they say, oh my goodness, I can't climb a ladder. I'm not going to go up and do that. How could I possibly get that done? And what you've laid out here, Ryan, is just a wonderful approach to putting together the business plan and the idea and really focusing on the essence of what makes it different and what can help differentiate the business. And the actual labor and I'll call it technology part of it is really a commodity, right? It's a fairly common service that can be found by people who do it well, and maybe they don't have the same business thinking that you would, so they haven't been able to grow it or get it past a certain level. So bringing them on as a subcontractor to do the labor part is brilliant. And you guys got the idea for the company and doing it. And there are many, many other examples of that I think are out there that if people would just, people that are hungry because they think they're tired of their day job, they want to either start with a side hustle or some bona fide business. There are many, many ways to get those kind of things done.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be, it is complicated because there's things to learn, but since we're using subs, and this business model can be applied to like hardware flooring, and there's so many businesses. The key is finding good subs. Like we've already ran into our first issue. My brother actually this morning was at a job fixing it because the previous sub messed it up, and now we know not to use them again because it's a long story. But so it's, we've already ran into our first issue, but it's an opportunity for us to do right by the customer and still be on their good side and hopefully get a referral. So it's just a learning process.
Right. But that's, taking a look at the core essentials of the business and trying to figure out a better way to approach it, a better way to deliver it, a better way to support it. And at the end of the day, somebody's house is going to have a new roof on it, right? So right. That's the fairly common denominator. But the way you go about doing that is the uniqueness that you've tried to create. So that's great.
It's very scalable. It's very scalable. We just have to advertise and market the business, and we have to do the right things and do right by the customer, and then just build a good relationship with the subcontractors. And then we just get the work, pass it on to them, and hopefully it's a perfect marriage.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that it's obviously some lucrative opportunity. I have a young lady in a mastermind that I run down here in Houston that owns a roofing company. And so part of her story when she first came to us, a woman in the roofing business, what's up with that? And but she's turned it into her last year was like $10 million.
Oh, wow.
So she's got it going on, and she's got teams in several large cities around Texas and Louisiana. And so she's interstate, and she's, multiple job site, multiple teams. And so she's gone through all that evolution of growing. In the first half of the show, we talked about the people challenges of trying to scale your business. Obviously, when you're going to do something like that, you've got huge people challenges because you need somebody in each of your markets that's going to take responsibility for getting teams out to the field and quality delivery and all of that. So
yeah, is she commercial and residential, just residential?
She has done largely commercial and even some government contracting, but now she's actually looking at a residential because her strategy has been to enter a market and start with residential with the goal of winning commercial. Because the residential is easier to sell in a new market than commercial is, because commercial is pretty close knit when you really get into it. And but she's started that way. But over time, as she's looked at her general margin and profitability, the residential is solid business if you do it well. So it's got a good margin, reasonably strong customer satisfaction rating if you do it. Again, if you got to do it right, but if you can set your model to do that, it's repeatable and scalable, and she's been able to do that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's your big takeaway from starting up a new company like that?
It's really that you don't get it right out of the gate. Like the way we were approaching the quotes to start is different than how we're doing it now. And so it just took some fine tuning, like how we were positioning at us, how we were presenting the quotes, how quickly we were giving it to them. And so, it just took some fine tuning there. And I guess it's not too much of a surprise, but I thought we already had a really solid process for how we were going to present the pricing, because we do sales all the time at the marketing that was completely different, homeowners versus businesses. And so, but it's taken some tweaks to get it right. And now we're closing, or, lack of a better word, more opportunities, more roofs. And so that's my biggest takeaway right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's talk about one element of this that somebody might have raised their consciousness about it as we began these discussions. You've described all these ventures as having family involved. How's that working out for you?
I mean, it's worked out well for us. I mean, we've been around forever. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's, because I do talk about this a lot on interviews, because we got 55 years of family ownership. I'm third generation. And so I think it comes down to, if I have to boil down to why I think we've been able to last this long, is that, we all want to do a good job. There's no, everyone's got a conscious, they want to contribute to the company and do a good job. We all have our set roles. I mean, there's some overlap, of course, but we've got specific roles. There's no egos. We can have a conversation about things, and there might be arguments, but it's all very, very, not easy, but everyone just gets along. And so I think that's really it. And we all have a goal we're trying to achieve, and we all work towards it together, and we like working with each other. And so, there have been some co-tays that have come into the business and they have not worked out. And so there's been some of that turnover, but for the most part, I think that's why we've been able to last as long as we have.
Have you ever had to have kind of the fireside chat with the three generations sitting there going, hey, look, we are family. This has become a problem. We don't want to let it interrupt our dynamic as a family. What are we going to do about this? Have you ever had those kind of chats before?
Yes, we have had, I'm not going to give specifics. We have had two wives that did not like each other a lot. And there was a good 2-year period where that was a little dicey. But we managed to keep it out of the business, and now they're kind of friendly. And so it's all like, there was a time where they couldn't be in the same room at a family party, or same party really. And now we go on trips together. So I'm like, holy cow. There was a two-year period where I was like, what are we going to do here? My dad's like, you got to fix this. I'm like, I'm trying. And it just took time to resolve itself, but it didn't creep too much into the business.
Good.
And,
That's the one when people start talking about family business, there's always a little bit of a red flag that goes up in my mind because, well, I'm a veteran of doing family business. My wife and I ran a company together, and we did have some of our children come in. Some of our sons were there for a bit. I had a brother-in-law that I hired to be a part of the company, and at one point, his wife joined us for a little bit. That's my wife's sister. So I mean, it was pretty deeply intertwined there, and for the most part, we didn't really suffer anything. I know as the kind of founder owner, what I told my boys when they came to work is that I do have one expectation. When we're at work, this is business. I'm your boss. You're my employee. You can't leverage any of the familial, you told me, no, I'm going to go talk to mom, that kind of thing. We can't do that here.
yeah.
And they got it. And one of my boys, when he came to work for me, he, right after he started, it was about 3 weeks, he took a little bit of liberty on his clocking in and clocking out and all that. And I slammed him with a 30-day probation period.
How do you take it?
He took it just fine. He got it right between the eyes, and he picked up his game, and I'm very proud. He's the one that kind of, you could call it carry on in the family business. I don't have that company anymore, and he has gone on and gone to work for other companies, but he's now vice president of a bank and doing the same kind of work that I taught him how to do at the company. And I'm very proud of him, for doing that.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
So,
I see what you mean, though. We try to avoid that because we have one letter shop that we used to use in the direct mail side where that kind of stuff was happening, but rampantly. And it really took down the whole company because what happens is the non-family employees, they start to build resentment.
Yes.
If you're being treated differently, and if you don't fix it, it's just poison that will just wipe out the whole company.
That's
so we're
exactly
pretty conscious of that,
Yep. That's exactly right. And that's why I had those discussions with the family members that were there that, and I pretty much said it to everybody. Look, I can't give you favoritism. You've got to toe the line. You've got to, if we have a schedule, you have to meet it. If there's a rule about time cards, you have to fulfill it, et cetera, et cetera. And they did. They got it. So
good.
Worked out pretty good. Well, Ryan, I think we're coming up on our time here. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in calling you direct and getting some more information.
Yeah, I'll give you the websites for the businesses that we spoke about today. So for the personal development, morning routine, content, blog, podcast, book, etc., go to morningupgrade.com. And then for the marketing, it's nice and easy, Ballantine.com, like the beer, but no relationship. And then the roofing is BallentineHomeImprovement.com. So
okay. We'll put all of that in the show notes. And those of you that are listening via audio, we've got notes in the podcast site over on my website, podcasts at dougthorpe.com. And I do want to remind everybody, if you're with us on audio only, we do have a video edition of this that's over on my YouTube channel. Same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense on YouTube. So feel free to join the video here. You got a couple of really handsome guys talking to you. So enjoy the show. Ryan, it's been a pleasure, man. Any last words you want to share with the people?
I guess like rapid fire, I'll just say, invest in yourself. It's the best investment you can make. We spoke about masterminds, and you said you run your own mastermind. Huge fan of them. I definitely encourage everyone listening to it to look into finding a mastermind, and then just look for opportunities to push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's where the growth happens. And Sometimes you have to use the word we used before, you have to be intentional because it's uncomfortable. So you will naturally not do it. So you have to be intentional about doing it, and encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, great words of wisdom, Ryan. Thank you so much for being on this show. It's been a pleasure talking. And folks, I hope this has been helpful to you. Again, I want to, I guess, highlight the idea that if you're out there and haven't taken the plunge as an entrepreneur, but kind of have that fire burning in your belly, take a tip out of Ryan's book. It's never too late to try something new and different. You can certainly get some help with coaches or advisors to guide you along the way. But if you've got an idea, run for it, man. Get out there and make it happen. Create that daily habit that'll allow you that intentionality to plow through it and get it done. So this has been another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.